Hello everyone, I am Mariam, and today we're going to talk about how to use empirical process control theory in companies. This is our team, Zainab, Mohammed, Beza, and I. In today's agenda, we will discuss what's the empirical process control theory and its history, some definitions, and its components, the benefits, and how can we use it in companies, some alternatives, and the resources. A brief introduction. Agile software development uses Scrum framework, and it makes it easier for teams to create, deliver, and maintain complex products. Its focus is teamwork and making incremental progress towards well-defined goals. What's the empirical process control theory? The empirical process control theory focuses on team members sharing their knowledge and understanding, trying something based on that knowledge, and evaluating the results. Finally, evaluating something new depending on the outcome, which is deemed as new knowledge. The history of the empirical process control theory. In 1991, the Scrum framework was released, and it stresses the feedback loops and empirical data to optimize software development. In 1995, Agile project management framework was published, and the main goal was introducing Scrum to a larger audience and aids in the spread of the empirical process control theory. In 2001, the Agile Manifesto was released, and it describes the value of Agile software development and emphasizes people and interactions, usable software, and customer collaboration. In 2003, the Scrum Alliance was established to support the adaptation of Scrum and offers practitioners training and certification. In 2009, the Kanban approach was presented and as a companion to Scrum and other Agile methodologies. It uses visual management tools to streamline operation. In 2015, Scaled Agile Framework was established, and it incorporates lean and system thinking ideas. In 2020, due to COVID-19, many businesses started adopting Agile and empirical process control approaches. Now we will present some definitions, and Zainab will take the lead.
Now I would like to explain some keywords. Firstly, I would like to start with Agile epics. An Agile epic is a body of a framework that can be divided into particular tasks depending on customer or end user needs or requests. And then secondly, what is prioritizing the backlog? The product backlog should include a list of every product-related activity that your team must finish next, as well as everything else that they can and they should focus on with a time range. And lastly, what are the conduct release planning procedures? Release planning allows the delivery team, product owner, and stakeholders to agree on what needs to be accomplished and when, depending on the available resources. We can move. What are the components of the theory? The first component is transparency, the second one is inspection, and the third one is adaptation. Now I would like to explain them more clearly. Firstly, transparency. Transparency is anyone can observe every aspect of any Scrum process thanks to transparency. This encourages an open work environment and facilitates the smooth and transparent flow of information throughout the business. How we can apply transparency? By using boards and sharing with the stakeholders what we have done and what we haven't done. And secondly, second component is inspection. How we can apply inspection? Firstly, by using a shared Scrum board and other information resources. Secondly, by collecting feedback from customers and other stakeholders during the prioritized product backlog and develop epics and conduct release planning procedures. And lastly, in the demonstrate and validate sprint processes, the product owner and the client inspect and improve the deliverables. And third and last component is adaptation. Adaptation occurs as a Scrum core team and stakeholders learn via transparency and inspection and then adjust by improving their work. Adaptation in Scrum is depicted through stand-up meetings, constant risk identification, change requests, retrospect sprint meeting, and retrospect project meeting. And now I will talk about the benefits of empirical process control theory. First advantage is it enables advancing while learning. This method implies that it's possible to assume that the product's requirements in advance of development. Based on market trends, user and customer feedbacks, and other factors, the Scrum team develops a better understanding of the product they must create. Secondly, it embraces the change. The Empirical Process Control Theory promotes change, and it's constantly prepared to adjust the product to any form of modification in accordance with the current necessary. And it enables quick development cycles for inspection and adaptation. Sprints are brief cycles used by Scrum to provide contribution to the product. So by reviewing and modifying the prior data, facts, and supporting proof, this value is provided. Now Mohammed will continue.
Thank you, Zainab. I'll be explaining how we can use ECP or EPC in companies. For starters, we have monitoring and measuring processes. We basically collect data and feedback to know what to improve in our project and to progress in our processes. Secondly, we have identifying the problem or the causes of the problem, which is basically looking into the deep causes of the problems when they happen. And then thirdly is applying continuous improvement. EPC uses different technologies to do so, such as PDCA cycles, Kaizen events, or Six Sigma methodologies, and etc., in order to continue improving and making progress within the project that is at hand. Now, I'll be introducing an alternative to the Empirical Process Control Theory. It is the Defined Process Control Theory. This is a series of stages to achieve the objective that the company or the group has, and it produces consistent results. But what makes it a problem is that during this process or during this theory, the team has to rely on different information that was made by other businesses, and that is deemed lackluster because the project should change according to the user's feedback. The projects cannot stay constant or be stagnant. So that's what makes this control theory lackluster. Here, I'm going to be introducing the resources for this rule. The main resource for this rule is Jira, and it's used for the development of epics. And there are also different alternatives to Jira, such as Asana, Rike, Smartsheet, Monday.com, AHA, Product Plan, Agile Hive, and Kanban. Now moving forward, Beza will take lead.
Okay, I'm going to talk about methods for prioritizing product backlog and risk identification. The first method is about stack ranking. In this method, tasks are sorted due to their priority, and OKR is a great alternative for this method. The second method is CD3 method. It's used to rank among, again, the backlogs. For this method, the backlogs are sorted according to their costs, and the ratio of this cost to the required time is found, and a ranking is made accordingly. CD3 stands for cost of delay divided by duration. You can see from the graph, actually. We can move on. Again, another method to give priority among the backlog is to use custom and initiative formula method. In this method, teams score the works under certain headings according to themselves. As can be seen in the figure, the work is listed by scoring according to its impact and ease, and the score that can be obtained as a result of doing the job. The last method we mentioned about prioritizing backlog is the Moscow method. The backlogs created for this ranking are classified under 4 headings. As can be seen in this figure, these 4 headings consist of must have, should have, could have, and won't have. And a business is not considered successful without a backlog in done phase in the must have category. those in the should have class are high in importance, but not as critical as must have. And backlogs that were sacrificed go into the coulda category, but only desirable work needs to be completed in the won't have classifier group. We can move on. After the backlogs are ranked according to their importance, we wanted to consider the resources that can be used during the planning process. This is another phase. Of course, there's a Slack, which we all know and has a very common use, so that teams do not interrupt communication and can easily write to each other, then send notifications. Here you can see applications that can be alternatives to Slack, such as Microsoft Teams and Chanty. We can move on. And now I'm going to give methods for risk identification, and naturally brainstorming is the first strategy that comes to mind when we think about the dangers that can exist after overcoming the disconnect problem at the planning stage. It's already commonly used in businesses and improves team members' ability to communicate and share information. We can move on. For a more detailed risk identification, SWOT analysis can be preferred. The requirements for this analysis, the strengths and weaknesses observed in the short term, and also opportunities and the threats for long term are observed, and they may be encountered to determine. We can move on. Another highly preferred approach is to apply root cause analysis. A detailed study is required to make this analysis, and also various applications are made, such as Pareto chart, by examining titles like what are the symptoms that reveal risks and what are their effects, also how this problem can be defined, and then what causes this problem. For in this way, the highest level factor that can be affect the work becomes visible. Another risk analysis method is the Delphi method. This method is a structured approach that involves gathering input from a panel experts and iteratively identify, then assess risks, making use of their collective wisdom and expertise. We can move on. And in order to determine the risks, feedback can be gathered by conducting various internal or external interviews. And finally, the observations that almost every company makes during the day without being aware of, it's one of the methods of determining the risk, which is inspection. Our research on the subject was like this. Thank you for your listening to us.